Legislative Day number 13 will now come to order. Please rise for a moment of silent meditation. I will now call upon Councilmember Jones, who will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, and before we get started, we could have just a quick moment of silence for the victims from Dayton and El Paso. Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the journal for the meeting of July 1st, 2019?
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
Been a motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
The journal is approved. Bill 31-19 was passed by the council, signed by the executive, and is hereby enrolled. Mr. Secretary, will you now read all bills for introduction, please?
Mr. Chair, first is Bill 36-19, Current Expense Budget Public Art Program. Bill 37-19 is sponsored by Council Members Quirk and Marks, Open Space Fees. Bill 3819 is sponsored by Mr. Catch, Greenway Areas and Environmentally Protected Easements. Bill 3919, sponsored by Mr. Catch, Zoning Regulations, Uses Permitted in Manufacturing Light Zones. Bill 4019, sponsored by Mr. Marks, Food Trucks. And Bill 41-19, Council Members Jones and Bevins, Development Impact Surcharge and Fee.
Council will now consider all bills for final reading and vote. Mr. Secretary, first bill, please.
Bill 32-19, Current Expense Budget, Maryland Summer Youth Connections.
And I think we have Mr. Will Anderson here to testify.
Mr. Chairman, I'm standing in for Will. He was detained momentarily.
No worries. Just, are you from Catonsville? Because let's have fun. I always tell our distinguished gentleman from Catonsville, Mr. Anderson, but all you.
Okay. Good evening, Chairman and members. As we discussed in the work session, the administration requests permission to receive an additional $90,474 for the Maryland Summer Youth Corrections Program, FY20 appropriation for a total of $265,474. The program will provide up to 149 at-risk youth who are experiencing the barriers created by homelessness with skills, knowledge, and abilities and support to help them navigate successfully in school and in their transition to college and or a career. The program is designed to prevent the lapse in summer learning loss, increase graduation rates, and equip participants with the tools to obtain employment. The program will operate for 6 weeks, 25 hours a week, and the youth will receive $10.10 per hour. Historically, this program has had much success in helping at-risk students with learning and obtaining skills to be gainfully employed.
Thank you. And are there any questions or comments from the members on Bill 32-19? Everybody good? Mm-hmm. All right, Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Bill 32-19.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Catch? Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Marks? Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Bill 32-19 is passed. Mr. Secretary, next bill, please.
Bill 33-19, Current Expense Budget, Organized Crime Drug Enforcement Task Force, OCD-ETF.
And I do believe we have Mr. Drew Vetter and Chief Hyatt here to testify tonight. Good evening. Thank you for both joining us.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the council. Bill 33-19 is a request for a supplemental appropriation to support the Organized Crime Drug Enforcement Task Force, which will enable Baltimore County to serve in a fiduciary role for this program. 100% of the costs will be fully reimbursable, and the county will share in a portion of the revenue that's generated by the task force. We urge the council's support for this as an example of regional collaboration between local government, state government, and our partners at the federal level as well around the important issues of drug trafficking and violent crime. Thank you.
And are there any questions or comments for Mr. Vetter or Chief Hyatt from the council? Councilman Jones.
I guess wanted to say that I am excited to support this initiative and very proud of Baltimore County to be chosen as a fiduciary. I guess I said that right. And I'm excited about the results that this task force will bring.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the members? Yeah, echo Councilman Jones as well. I mean, I do like the creativity. I do like Baltimore County going above and beyond to really try to do everything we can, especially go after the violent offenders and criminals that we really need to target. So seeing no other questions or comments, Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Bill 33-19.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye. Bill 33-19 is passed. Mr. Secretary, next bill, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bill 34-19, final historical landmarks list.
And I see Ms. Terry Rising making her way up to the front. And good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of council. Bill number 3419 involves the addition of the Glen Arm Railroad Station and setting, excluding the post-1981 additions and sheds at 5205 Glen Arm Road, tax map 53, parcel 391, tax ID 111-6000-00033 to the final landmarks list. It had been placed on the preliminary landmarks list by vote of the Baltimore County Landmarks Preservation Commission in accordance with county law on June 14, 2018. At the public hearing on June 3rd, the historic significance of the property was discussed and several people testified in support of this preliminary landmark, and we look for your support to add it to the final landmarks list.
Thank you, Mr. Rising. And Mr. Secretary, how many amendments are there?
There's just one amendment to this bill, Mr. Chair. The amendment, when the bill was drafted, it identified the final landmarks listing as number 412. That was actually, I believe, the preliminary landmark listing. So this is really a technical amendment that would merely change the number in two places in the bill from 412 to 396.
All right, I'll move the amendment. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, Mr. Secretary, if you could call a roll on the amendment to Bill 34-19.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Thank you. And are there any questions or comments on Bill 34-19 as amended? Councilman Catch.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This station is in the 3rd District, and many of you who know me know that I'm very interested in trains, mostly antique toy trains, but nevertheless, this station is one of the very few that is left along the old Ma and Pa or Maryland and Pennsylvania line. And so that's why this is important to me. If you want to see another one, you go down Charles Street, just go in the city, make a right on Lake Avenue, and on the left you'll see another former station of the Ma and Pa Railroad. So it was once very active and a huge part of our infrastructure in the Baltimore metropolitan area. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Marks?
Yeah, thank you. I'll echo my colleague, Councilman Catch's comments. This is certainly a very important part of Baltimore County's transportation history. And as Councilman Catch noted, there's very few elements of the Mom Railroad remaining. The abutments down by the Towson Library are part of that. The railroad actually, I believe, used to go along Cromwell Bridge Road on its way over to Harford County. So this is a wonderful nomination. A lot of volunteers spent many hours on this. And I certainly want to thank the Department of Planning for all the analysis it's provided.
Any other questions or comments from the council? All right, is there a motion to approve Bill 34-19?
So moved.
I'll second it.
It's been a motion and second. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Bill 34-19 as amended.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Bill 34-19 as amended is passed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Secretary, next bill, please.
Next is Bill 35-19, sponsored by Councilman Catch, zoning regulations, uses in certain BM or BMCT zones.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. And how many amendments are there on this bill?
There's really just one amendment in this bill as well, sponsored by Councilman Catch. If the members recall, Mr. Catch discussed briefly during the discussion of the bill the utilization or perhaps the underutilization of the light rail that is in the vicinity of this proposed development that would benefit from this bill. And Mr. Catch requested some language in the bill that would highlight the importance of the light rail and the hope that this project will also enhance ridership and utilization of the light rail and perhaps even consider express service. And the amendment does just that, I believe.
Any questions or comments on the amendment? Councilman Catch?
I want to thank the staff for their work on this amendment. When you read it, it's very interesting. The light rail, the operating expenses are $35 million a year. Of that, only 18% comes from the fare box receipts. That means 82% is covered by taxpayers. So that's why it's so important that we get to the point where the light rail is utilized much more than it is today. As I said before, when I see the light rail, 3 long cars, I pass them, there's 3 people on the train. It shouldn't be that way. I know one of the problems is it takes longer to get downtown on the light rail than it does to drive downtown, which is why I suggested express service, because that could be real competition for those who take their cars back and forth. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on the amendment itself? Is there a motion to approve the amendment for Bill 35-19?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on this amendment to Bill 35-19.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Catch? Aye. Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
The amendment passes. Now, are there any other questions or comments on this bill before we vote? And Councilman Jones.
Do you have it? Oh, well, yes. I was going to say this particular piece of legislation is very important to the Hunt Valley, Loveton, Sparks area of our district and of Baltimore County. This is a business area that lacks housing, and with this bill, those who are familiar with Hunt Valley, the former Sears parking lot, this proposes to build approximately 400 apartments there. Along with the apartments, there are plans to revitalize the town center, which will in turn vitalize Hunt Valley and Sparks. I call them industrial parks. I know that's not the correct title, but if you look there today, you'll find that there are some vacancies, and hopefully with this very desirable housing, this will help revitalize this area, which is so important to the economic development of Baltimore County.
Councilman Jones.
Now, I just wanted to take this opportunity to commend my colleague, as well as Greenberg and Gibbons. This is the type of project that I imagine we will see more of in the future as we move forward. As Baltimore County is becoming more built out, the only place to go is up, and to find a repurpose a building that's sitting there and provide valuable housing will not only allow Baltimore County to continue to grow, but it'll add much needed taxes to our tax base. So, great job. Sure.
Thank you, Councilman. I too am interested in what we as a council can do, looking at different BM zones and looking at mixed use and some of the zoning we used to do specifically just for PUD. So I like the concept. I'm interested in exploring it more as a council at some point too. Any other questions or comments? Is everybody good? All right, is there a motion to approve Bill 35-19 as amended?
So moved.
Second.
Been motion and second. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Bill 35-19 as amended.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Katch?
Aye.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Bill 35-19 as amended is passed. Council will now consider all fiscal matters. Extensive testimony was taken at the council's work session on July 30th, 2019. The witnesses who testified at the work session are available to restate their testimony if needed. If a council member has any questions regarding a particular fiscal matter, that item will be discussed as a separate issue. I will now call upon the Secretary to read the cover letter for fiscal matters 1 through 9.
Fiscal Matter 1 is 2 contracts for vehicle damage estimating services. Fiscal Matter 2 is a contract with Airbus Helicopters Incorporated. Fiscal Matter 3 is a purchase order with Bodie Cellmark Forensics Incorporated. Fiscal Matter 4 is a contract with Teledyne / ISCO. Fiscal Matter 5 is an amendment to a contract with Power and Combustion Incorporated. Fiscal Matter 6 is an amendment to a contract with Wolpert Incorporated. Fiscal Matter 7 is a contract of sale with Valley Village Associates, LLC. Fiscal Matter 8 is a memorandum of understanding with Northwest Hospital Center. And Fiscal Matter 9 is a memorandum of understanding Comprehensive Housing Assistance Incorporated.
Are there any questions or comments from the members on any of these fiscal matters? All righty. Hearing none, is there a motion to approve fiscal matters 1 through 9?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on fiscal matters 1 through 9.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Katch?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Fiscal matters 1 through 9 are approved. We will now consider all miscellaneous business. Mr. Secretary, first item, please.
Whenever a contract over $25,000 is awarded by a process other than formal competitive bid, it is required that a copy of the contract be given to the county council and the nature and parties to the contract be announced by the secretary at the next legislative session following the award. There are several items this evening. First is a contract with Westcam USA Incorporated in the amount of $363,385. Next is a contract with CareerBuilder.com. The estimated purchases are $12,000 to $15,000 per year. Next is Branch Group Incorporated, doing business as Rexel Incorporated, in the amount of $58,171.43. And the final contract is with American Signal Company Incorporated in the amount of $47,384.
Mr. Secretary, next item, please.
Next is Resolution 80-19. This is a resolution to expand the residential permit parking area E in the Padonia Road area.
And I see we have Mr. Steve Walsh here to testify. Good evening, Mr. Walsh.
Mr. Chairman, members of the council. Resolution 80-19 proposes to expand the existing residential parking permit area E in the area of Padonia Road opposite Delaney High School. The addresses in question include numbers 224 to 254, 260 to 290, and number 231 Padonia Road. All the criteria in Article 18, Title 2, Subtitle 4 of the County Code has been met for the eligibility and expansion of this area.
Any questions or comments from the council? Councilman Katz?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to thank our staff for the information that they provided me regarding the fees associated with this parking. The initial fee is $34, and then to renew it each year, it's $14. Now, if you buy a new car and you have to get a new sticker, there's a charge for that as well, and I don't remember what that charge was.
$11.
$11, okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Any other questions or comments for Mr. Walsh or any on the resolution? Everybody good? All right, is there a motion to approve Resolution 80-19?
Second.
There's been a motion and second. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Resolution 80-19.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Resolution 80-19 is passed. Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Mr. Secretary, next item, please.
Resolution 81-19 is sponsored by council members Marks, Bevins, Crandall, and Catch. Wastewater discharge permit, Mountain Christian Church.
Who wants to start?
I'll start.
Councilman Marks?
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On May 1st, 2018, the Harford County Council voted to update its water and sewer master plan to accommodate a request from the Mountain Christian Church to address its septic system. The church has proposed discharging thousands of gallons of treated wastewater into a tributary that leads into the Little Gunpowder Falls. These developments, reported in the Harford County Aegis nearly 15 months ago, probably did not get much attention in Baltimore County. Why is the Baltimore County Council voting tonight on a resolution that concerns a church in Harford County? Because the wastewater will affect Baltimore County communities from Kingsville to Point South. At 2 community meetings held this summer, my constituents and others overwhelmingly opposed the request for a permit and, like me, were concerned about the lack of notification. I believe Mountain Christian Church does an awful lot of good, but the process of engaging residents in places like Kingsville could have been a lot better. And that responsibility also falls, and principally falls, I might add, on the State Department of the Environment. I'll be seeking amendments to this resolution to make it clear that the Baltimore County Council supports a no-discharge option, and we ask the state legislature to consider ways to better inform neighboring jurisdictions when a project like this is proposed in the future. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments before we go to the amendments?
Yes.
Councilman Katz?
Mr. Chairman, very quickly, I'm afraid to say that this is precedent setting. And if MDE does not put a stop to this, I can see Harford County and other counties doing the same thing, which will have a negative effect on our waterways in Baltimore County. So I'm hoping that this resolution will get the attention of Harford County, the attention of MDE, so that we can resolve this issue in a rational, reasonable way. Thank you.
And any other questions or comments before we go into the amendments?
Mr. Chairman. thank you.
Councilwoman Bevins?
Thank you. I just want to thank Councilman Marks for all the work that he's done on this bill. I know that Kingsville falls in his district, but for me, it's about the health of the other rivers, and we can't let, whether it's a nonprofit or for-profit, be able to discharge this type of water into our waterways. The health of our rivers and tributaries are too important. So thank you so much for the amount of work that you put into this, David.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
One more thing.
Councilman Marks?
And thank you, Councilwoman Bevins and Councilmember Catch. I did talk to our council secretary about the importance of getting a copy of the resolution to the Maryland Department of the Environment. The comment period did officially close. We couldn't prevent that. Our legislative calendar set. But hopefully the Secretary of the Environment will see the resolution and understand our concerns.
Thank you, Councilman.
Mr.
Councilman
Chair.
Jones?
Yes, I would just ask the Secretary to please add me as a co-sponsor to this resolution, please.
You can put me on as well. making a nice,
There you go.
nice group.
Very well, yes.
Thank you, Councilman
Sure.
Jones.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions or comments from the council before we go to the amendments? All right, Mr. Secretary, I understand there's a couple amendments, but I think we're going to vote on that as a package. Is that right?
Yes, Mr. Chair. One amendment is technical. It just deletes some language, deletes the second whereas clause, which is really unnecessary language that was in the resolution. The other amendments are a little more substantive. On page 2 of the resolution, there is a whereas clause that refers to an unnamed tributary, and we have come to know from the Riverkeeper, the Gunpowder Riverkeeper, that unnamed tributary is Indian Grave Run, so the amendment would substitute that. The third amendment is more substantive as well. It would essentially make the first opening paragraph as well as the closing paragraph of the resolution read that this is a resolution of the County Council urging the Maryland Department of the Environment to require an on-site no-discharge option for the wastewater discharge permit request of Mountain Christian Church, or if the permit request is granted, to require a strong enhanced nutrient removal process as recommended by the Gunpowder Riverkeeper. And then the final amendment, as Mr. Marks alluded to, would also urge the General Assembly to strengthen interjurisdictional communication requirements when an MDE permit of this type is requested near a jurisdictional border.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Is council okay voting on all these amendments together?
Yes.
Everybody okay?
I'll move them.
You'll move them? Okay, there's been a motion to approve the amendments to Resolution 81-19.
Second.
And there's been a second. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on these amendments to Resolution 81-19.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Catch? Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
The amendments do pass. Any other questions or comments before we vote? Okay, is there a motion to approve Resolution 81-19 as amended?
So moved.
Second.
Been motioned and seconded. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Resolution 81-19 as amended.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Mr. Catch? Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Resolution 81-19 as amended is passed. Mr. Secretary, next item, please.
Next is a grant from the administration for the fiscal year 2020 Arts and Sciences General Fund grants.
And see, we have Mr. Williams, Mr. Barry Williams coming up to testify instead of Mr. Keith Williams. And good evening, Mr. Williams.
Good evening. Good evening, Mr. Chair and council members. The administration is requesting approval of grants totaling $2,834,800 to cultural and artistic nonprofit organizations as approved by the council during the fiscal year 2020 budget process as follows: 30 general fund operating grants, 15 tourism program capital grants / endowments, and organizational grants. Maryland State Arts Council grants for the Splash Summer Arts Program and various project grants, and various project grants not eligible for state grant funding.
Are there any questions or comments for Mr. Williams? Councilman Marks.
I want to take the opportunity to thank your staff and the administration for an outstanding concert at Oregon Ridge Park. That was something that many people have enjoyed for decades, and you pulled it off. And it was a wonderful celebration of this country. So, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Everybody good? I'll move to approve these grants. Is there a second? Second. There's been a motion and second. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on these grants.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Grants are approved. Thank you, Mr. Williams.
Thank you.
Mr. Secretary, next item, please.
Next is Resolution 83-19, sponsored by Councilman Quirk. This is a resolution to approve the property tax refund of Carolyn G. Dade, who, as a disabled veteran, is entitled to a refund under state law.
It is my honor to move it. Is there a second?
I'll move it.
Been a motion and second. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Resolution 83-19.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Resolution 83-19 is passed. Mr. Secretary, next item, please.
Resolution 84-19 is sponsored by Councilman Catch. This is a resolution to authorize the property tax refund to Leroy G. Brightwell, who, as a disabled American veteran, is entitled to a refund under state law.
Mr. Chairman, it's my honor to move this resolution.
I'll second it.
Been a motion and second. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Resolution 84-19.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Resolution 84-19 is passed. Mr. Secretary, next item, please.
Resolution 85-19 is sponsored by Councilwoman Bevins. This is a resolution authorizing the refund of property taxes paid by Robert Polk Sr., who, as a disabled veteran, is entitled to a refund under state law.
It's my honor to move the resolution.
I'll second.
Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Resolution 85-19.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Resolution 85-19 is passed. Mr. Secretary, next item, please.
Resolution 86-19 is also sponsored by Councilwoman Bevins. This is a resolution to authorize the refund of property taxes paid by Jerice Boston, who is entitled to a refund under state law as a disabled veteran.
And it is my honor to move that resolution as well.
Second.
Been motion and second. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Resolution 86-19.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Resolution 86-19 is passed. Mr. Secretary, next item, please.
Resolution 87-19 is sponsored by Councilman Jones. This is a resolution to authorize the refund of property taxes paid by William Montgomery, who is entitled to a refund under state law as a disabled veteran.
It's my honor to move this resolution.
Second.
Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Resolution 87-19.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye. Resolution 87-19 is passed. Mr. Secretary, next item, please.
Resolution 88-19 is sponsored by Councilman Patoka. This is a resolution to authorize the property tax refund for Jesse McCoy, who is entitled to a refund as a disabled veteran under state law.
Mr. Chairman?
After you.
Go ahead.
No, after you, I insist.
Mr. Chairman, it's my honor to move Resolution 88-19.
I'll second.
Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Resolution 88-19.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Resolution 88-19 is passed. Mr. Secretary, next item, please.
Resolution 89-19 is also sponsored by Councilman Patoka. This is a resolution authorizing the refund of property taxes paid by Rosemary Tatum, who, as a disabled American veteran, is entitled to a refund under state law.
I'll move the resolution in the name of my colleague, Izzy Patoka.
Second.
Been motion and second. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Resolution 89-19.
I did it again. It's the wrong name, Brianna Stubbs, sorry.
I'll move it.
89-19.
Yes.
89-19, Brianna Stubbs.
Yep, I'll still move it.
Good catch, Chris. Oh, Jamie, good. All right, let's try that again. We
It
motioned.
is my honor and privilege to move it in the name of my council colleague, Mr. Patoka.
Second.
Motion and second. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Resolution 89-19.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Resolution 89-19 is passed. Mr. Secretary, next item, please.
Resolution 90-19 is sponsored by Councilman Jones. This is a resolution to authorize the property tax refund for Rosemary Tatum, who is entitled to a refund under state law as a disabled veteran.
I'll move the resolution.
Second.
Motion and second. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on Resolution 90-19.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Catch?
Aye.
Mr. Quirk?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
Mrs. Bevins?
Aye.
Mr. Crandall?
Aye.
Resolution 90-19 is passed. Mr. Secretary, next item, please.
Resolution 91-19 is a resolution to accept a gift, Baltimore County Police Foundation, Police Department, for introduction only this evening.
Mr. Chairman?
Councilman?
Yeah. This resolution is to deals with a park bench that's going to be placed at the Spring Lake Park in Timonium in remembrance of the grandmother and grandchild who were killed on Gatewood Road in Timonium in, I guess it's been about 6-7 months ago. And so I just want everyone to know the dedication is Saturday, August 24th. I don't recall the time. 10 a.m. at the park in the Spring Lake community. So if you need any more details, don't hesitate to call my office and we'll fill you in.
All righty. Mr. Secretary, next item, please.
Next is Resolution 92-19. This is sponsored by all council members, and this is a resolution to amend the rules of procedure for the Baltimore County Council. For introduction only this evening.
All righty. Mr. Secretary, any further business come before the council?
There is no further business, Mr. Chair.
Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Mr. Chair.
Oh, Councilwoman Bevins.
Thank you. I'd like to have a point of personal privilege.
Certainly.
Thank you. First, I would like to acknowledge Mr. Morales, who is in our audience today. He is part of the Brotherhood of Carpenters Union for the Keystone Mountain Lakes Region Council of Carpenters. Thank you for coming in and meeting with me today. It was really a privilege to hear about the organization and everything that's happening within your union. And second, it's with happiness and sadness. Jim Allman, who has worked for me for almost 3 years. Stand up, Jim. TV's on. His work for me for almost 3 years. Jim has been such a dedicated senior legislative aide. He's been so loyal and just, I know, so helpful to not just my office, but to the other staff. And he has built such great relationships in the communities and worked really hard, not just on my behalf, but on all the citizens in the 6th District and Baltimore County. Jim will be leaving my office to go work for a law firm, and Friday is his last day. So, Jim, I want to thank you for the time that you've spent with the Baltimore County Council and for serving my office with integrity and honor, and we will greatly miss you. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments before we, Councilman Jones?
I too would just like to wish Jim much success in his future endeavors. He certainly has been a gentleman, and it's been great working with you, and you'll be sorely missed.
Councilman Marks.
Jim and I have a lot of conversations about Boy Scouts because he's an Eagle Scout out of the troop that my son just became an Eagle Scout of. And you have lived that tradition, right? I mean, you've continued your public service, and you've served very honorably on behalf of this county, so best wishes.
Excellent. Anybody else?
Yes, Jim, I will miss you. My staff will miss you. I must say that those of you who know me, I'm not a big early morning person, but I understand that Jim comes in the morning early, and I know when I leave late, he's still there. So this is a dedicated county employee, and I'm certain, Councilwoman Bevins, you will miss him greatly.
I certainly will.
I think we should get him an all-county council resolution, Mr. Secretary.
We should.
We'll work on it.
Best wishes in the private sector, Jim. It's a great place.
You won't have as many days off, Jim.
Our office has enjoyed working with you as well. I know that you and Doug especially correspond a lot on some of the things that we work on here. And despite the fact that you work for Kathy, we really like you.
That's great. Well,
Peace out.
everybody good? All righty. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
Been a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. As is customary, anyone who has signed up prior to the meeting with the Secretary is allowed up to 3 minutes to speak. Mr. Secretary, are there any speakers signed up for this evening?
There is one speaker, Mr. Chair.
All right. We call Mr. Rico Dancy for up to 3 minutes. Good evening.
Good evening. I would like to work together so that with all of the council members, I want to work on the training that is offered to by my organization. There are different kinds of people with different disabilities, and each kind of disability has their own rights, and we want to have them work within governments. We want to help their employment possibilities. Thank you very much for listening.
Councilman Marks.
And thank you very much for coming in earlier. And we had a very thoughtful and very, I think, an excellent conversation. Thank you very much.
You are welcome. Thank you for your time.
All righty, I think that concludes tonight's legislative session. Please, everybody, have a safe drive home. Thanks so much.